Hello my friends. Today I'm going to make a version of eggplant parmesan, but instead of an eggplant I'm using the giant puffball. And you can see here I already took a slice out and ate it for breakfast. Okay, when you get a puffball, you want to cut it in half just to make sure there's not a trace of a mushroom cap in there. And it's pretty obvious this is a puffball. If it has any trace of a mushroom cap, it's not edible. Also, the puffball, when it matures, it goes to seed. It'll start discoloring and get maybe purple or black inside. You want it to be pure white, and this is the way you want to eat it. When you make a slice, what I find is it has a tendency to stick to my knife, and you want to slice about 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch. So I go through with somewhat of a sawing motion, and that'll make a pretty clean cut. The other thing, once you cut it, what you want to do then is peel off the outer layer. It's edible, but it's not a good texture, and it kind of irritates some people's stomachs. So peel that off, and any dirt that was on there came off with it. Now these large slices like this, I'm going to cook those different. I'm going to use the smaller end to make my Parmesan dish. So we're going to set this aside. We're going to set this large slice aside, and we're going to go from here. Okay, now once you get your slices for your Parmesan, I'm using a 3-dip process. First you dip into flour, and the purpose of the flour is to cause the eggs, which I have here, to stick, and then the egg will hold the breadcrumbs. As far as breadcrumbs, I'm using seasoned Italian, and I also like to mix panko with it because this has the larger chunk and it has a better crunch to it. So the season is a real fine powder, so that adds a lot of the flavor and the spices, and the large pieces, it adds the bulk and the crunch. After you have them cut and the outer layer, that leathery skin, peeled off, then what I like to do is make this a plate size portions. So I'm going to chop this kind of like that. This will make 2, 3. The texture is kind of like a marshmallow, so they're kind of really neat. There is a lot of moisture in these, and I think I'll leave these that size right there. Okay, now we take the pieces, dust them in the flour. There's enough moisture in there that'll hold the flour. Then we go into the egg wash. And notice I'm using bread pans, and that's because these are oblong, and the bread pans work perfect for that. Okay, once they're like this, set them on a cookie sheet or a baking sheet, and to let them kind of absorb or stick into, have the powder stick into the egg. It'll kind of lock it all together. I slush it around a bit in there to make sure that I get egg on the sides. I want this crust to be on all the surfaces. Here, these are all coated with the bread. Now what you want to do is have your oven preheated. It's a good thing to turn it on as you're prepping to preheat. You want it set at 350 degrees. Now the next thing you want to do is put the breaded puffballs in the oven and bake them for about 5 or so minutes. And that will set the breading on, and then we put them in our dish. Now these have been in the oven for 10 minutes and 5 minutes on each side. I took them out and flipped them over. We want to remove them now. What you do next is you take some spaghetti sauce and you put this on the bottom of your plates. You're going to need about 6 cups, so I have 2 jars of this. And what I do is I buy the sauce that comes in a canning jar so that it can be recycled into my canning. Okay, once you line the bottom of this, now you put in I'm wanting to say eggplant. You put in your mushroom, your giant puffball, and there were some smaller pieces. We can make those fit. Cover your eggplant or cover your mushroom with sauce. Then you want to load it up with shredded Parmesan cheese. And I'm using about 12 ounces to 16 ounces of cheese. Now we pop these in the oven for 35 minutes. It's been about 45 minutes. They need a little more time. And right there. Now we're ready to serve. Nice. Now the test. Oh man, I'll tell you what, it's so much better than eggplant. Wow, is that good. Well, I'm going to eat this and maybe a little bit more. You have to try it. Great recipe. Probably the best thing you can do with puffball. Puffball Parmesan. Thanks for watching, my friends. Bye-bye. Nice.